to our show, Crooked Doctors.
Crooked Doctors.
Today is Friday, January 4th.
Today is Friday, January 5.
No, today's Friday, January 4th, 2013.
I have to reset my watch. Okay, good.
2013.
Sure.
And we're doing an upgrade here. Our station is upgrading.
Oh, yes.
So while they're working on getting the equipment for high definition,
Right.
We've got a few other little technical glitches that we're working
Lights,
through.
a few other things.
But that's okay. So you can still see that we're Crooked Doctors.
Yeah.
You can still see we're Crooked Doctors.
We're still here.
And whoops! And this is today is January 4th, 2013, and that's our phone number 212-245-7273.
Right.
If you want to give us a call.
Sure.
And the topic for today's show is fraud.
And more fraud.
So what we're going to discuss today is I filed a complaint in federal court. In federal court right now,
Yes.
there is a complaint about fraud at Rikers Island.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show the audience the fraud at Rikers Island
Okay.
on just a few documents. And I also have an audio tape where we can listen to the city attorney, the city for New York, squirm.
Oh, they're squirming. Yep.
And make up all kinds of stories why it's okay to commit fraud at Rikers Island.
Sure.
It's not okay. And one of the reasons why Alex Sanchez over at United We Stand, one of the 911
First responders
group,
Yeah.
likes me is because I'll say, they can play good cop, I'll play bad cop.
A good cop, bad cop, folks. Yeah.
So I'll say what, they're trying to be diplomatic and maintain good relations with the city.
And you're the attack dog.
There you go. Okay? So I'm going to say what they're too polite to say.
Right.
Now, and when I was talking to Senator Colburn, this is a couple years back at the Sonia Sotomayor hearings.
Dr. Colburn, yes.
He is an MD in Washington. He's been saying over and over again, I've been reporting fraud, abuse, and waste. Taxpayers' dollars being wasted, and nobody's doing anything about it. So I'll also be discussing.
It's a legitimate question.
It is a legitimate.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the 911 first responders get their backs up when the Republicans ask them, well, how are you going to pay for this? It's a legitimate question.
Yes.
And in light of the thousands of dollars of Medicaid fraud that I'm reporting, one of the reasons President Obama passed Obamacare by saying he would pay for it
Absolutely.
by being vigilant and reporting fraud.
Right.
So I've got over $15,000 worth of Medicaid fraud in Jersey City.
Wow.
I got thousands of dollars worth of Medicaid fraud here in that you, the taxpayers, are paying for.
Sure.
And the 911 first responders
are they're getting shortchanged, folks.
Right.
And why are they getting shortchanged, Liddy?
Because the city is too busy doing Yeshiva University's dirty work.
Dirty work, yep.
Let's take a call for a second.
All right, call. Okay. It could be Ben. Let's see.
Hello.
Hello, darling. How are you?
It is Ben. I called it, Ben.
Listen up for a second. Look what Bill did for us.
I can hardly hear you.
Watch this, Ben. She's going to show you
You
something.
can hardly hear me?
Really?
Yeah, I can hear Bill fine.
What's going on?
Oh, you can hardly hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
That's better.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
the mic turned away.
Okay, good. So listen, I'm going to show you something.
She has something to show you, Ben. Watch this.
I just want to say,
All right, pay attention, Ben.
Go ahead.
This is 2013, right?
Right.
So, can't they make you a smaller headset phones, headphones?
Well, we're upgrading to high definition. So
High def, Ben.
Gigantic. You look like Lindbergh flying to Paris.
Or Mickey Mouse, I know. But that's not important now. What's important
go
now?
right ahead.
What's important now is.
I have a question about Betty,
look
please.
at this. Isn't
Ben,
this great?
there's something important to show you, Ben. Watch this.
Here's what Bill did. Bill started collecting up our videos, and he put them on video grids.
VidGrid.
VidGrids. So this is really good because in Jersey, one of the group that I'm working with actually watches us before she goes to sleep at night instead of TV, so she keeps up with us. So right here, if you go to and I can do this.
You got the address? You want to sound it out? The address on voice?
Yeah, it's right here.
HTTP. Go ahead.
So if you type this into your URL, http:// vidgrids
www. Should be.
vidgrids.com/u/CrookedDoctors, what you're going to come to
And look what you get.
is Bill
Wow.
organized everything together in a vid grid.
And that's a video history of the movement, Ben.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. So when I do this for Pauline Roman, she's going to have her own video webisodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I do this for you, you can have your own webisodes.
There you go, Ben.
So it's a nice collection. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
I was doing all the work here.
Well, it was quite an accident that I bumped into it, but go ahead.
So and the
Yeah,
other.
I mean, Pauline Roman wishes she had some kind of smell-o-vision.
Oh,
on
let me.
her videos. All right, go
Let
ahead.
me tell you something. She's had it with the local yokels, so we have no problem.
Who's that?
Pauline Roman.
Oh, Pauline Roman. Yeah, she'll be
Yeah.
in.
We'll talk about that.
We'll be.
But the most important thing that I want to get to is I want to show I'm in federal court next Friday.
Friday, I'll be there too, Ben.
Okay, so I'm in federal court, and what we're going to be looking at, there's going to be a number of people there, and what we're going to be looking at is, and I got 18 minutes in this show, you're going to listen to a city attorney, Carolyn Crook,
Yep.
come up with all these bogus excuses,
Yep.
dirty tricks,
Yep.
stupid nonsense, all of which to get away with Medicare fraud.
Sure.
And it's embarrassing now because
Well, this is pretty old, Ben. They've been doing this for so long. It's gotten old by now.
no more. So I've got a video, and I've got audio tape of me talking to Carolyn
Yeah.
Crook, and so Carolyn Crook can start explaining now
Sure.
why she's wasting taxpayer dollars
Big waste.
in order to do Yeshiva University's dirty work.
That's right.
Okay, so they railroad me into Rikers Island, and
That's
I'm going
right.
to change the camera view.
Is Ben still there?
Yeah, they
Wait.
drop kicked
Oh,
her
okay.
over.
They drop kicked me, and here's what the city, she's making a complete ass of herself.
Wow.
Okay, so here's what the city attorney, and by the way, these are all entered, let me bring this back to me. These are all entered in exhibits to a federal judge. And her first excuse is, gee, Lydia, I don't know what you're talking about, because in order for you to do a federal complaint, you'd have to have a short statement of your complaint. Well, there is a short statement.
Well, sure, that's a complaint. Yeah.
Succinctly, I am not, and I have never been a patient of Elmhurst Hospital.
Right.
All statements they made about me are defaming.
Right.
They have no consent form from me authorizing them to treat me as a patient
That's right.
in violation of McKinney's education law, section
Okay.
6530, item number 26, performing professional services which have not been duly authorized by the patient.
Right.
You know, what part of no didn't they understand?
Right.
I am not, and I have never been, a patient of Rikers Island Mental Health Department.
That's right.
All statements they made about me are defaming. They have no signed consent form from me authorizing them to treat me as a patient.
None whatsoever.
In violation of
Is that a
McKinney.
prerequisite for being a patient? You have to sign something?
Yeah, let's look at
But let's
that.
say if you're in
Good
there,
question,
and
Ben.
even if you didn't sign anything, that's
Oh, let's see
Oh,
all
look
the
at
lies they told.
Would you?
All the,
Oh, will you believe
look
this?
at
just remind me. I want to ask you about Betty's little lease clause later.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to that too because
Okay.
what I discovered with Betty's little lease clause is that her landlord, Mr.
I heard that thing. I heard this.
No, Mr. Polinsky
Yeah.
has a tenant in the same building where I live
Okay.
who has had a roommate for years. I talked to this woman.
Yes.
And Mr. Polinsky actually put the roommate's name on the lease. So when Mr. Polinsky drafted this illegal
How'd you
lease,
find that out?
because I talked to the people in my building.
Wow.
And because I flyered my building. No, I flyered my building. And
Flyered.
Mr. Polinsky was so upset that my flyering became a bargaining chip.
Really?
And he was like, what is, and this, what is
he
it going to,
changed the language or something?
Of the lease.
This is isn't this
Did he
amazing?
eventually make the
The
change?
landlord did this,
well, he
Ben.
claims he did, but I'm turning him in. And here's my message to Brooklyn. Here's
Yeah.
your Christmas present. Under New York general business law, you don't have to prove criminal intent. You don't have to show reliance on the false statements. All you have to do is show that there were false statements made. So if Ms. Povinetti wants to, she can go into small claims
Sure.
court and she can say, Gilbert Polinsky, we can show intent.
There you go.
Gilbert Polinsky has had a tenant
Yes.
at the apartment building where I'm staying temporarily
Right.
for years. He has had a tenant who has had a roommate for years.
Right.
The roommate's name is on the lease. So when Gilbert Polinsky drafted that illegal lease clause,
Yeah.
he knew what he was doing was wrong because
Right.
he knew for years he had tenants in his building with Ms. Povinetti.
Right.
That had these tenants had roommates and their names were on the leases. So this is circumstantial evidence of me being stalked.
Admission of guilt.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The only reason that illegal lease clause was there was to attack me.
Sure.
And deceive Mrs. Povinetti.
Are you saying that you're Betty's roommate?
She can have a house guest. She can have a roommate if she wants.
I know, I didn't ask you that.
Well, but he was trying to illegally evict me, claiming that I wasn't on the lease. I'm like, that's irrelevant.
Yes, similar to mine. I'm letting
I was
people in the
wondering
building, and we
You
guess
even
we're
bothered
not
to
supposed
go
to
through all
have.
that trouble
Wait.
to try to get her lease changed.
Yeah.
She doesn't have.
I didn't think that, that Betty was going to start taking in boarders or starting.
She's not. The point is, she was. Her daughter tried to help me, and I'm trying to help her mom.
Right.
And the landlord is there's no reason for the landlord to level this attack at me. He knows better.
Right.
He's had tenants who have had roommates for years.
Sure.
So for him to draft this illegal clause into the lease was circumstantial evidence.
Same as the Grand View, the same business with the lease, and you can't have people and all the kind of nonsense. Yeah.
That they told you that?
Pardon me?
Will those people testify that they told you that?
I can
that he changed
subpoena
the
them,
lease
and I can
clause?
subpoena their leases. But I
Of
want
course
to
you
get
can.
I want to get to Rikers Island fraud.
Okay.
So shame on you,
Shame on you,
Mr. Polinsky.
Mr. Polinsky. Right.
You were just thanking him on that tape.
Well, that was before I discovered
You
that.
turned on a dime on him.
No. He knew when I
no. Shame on your wife. You should drop dead in hell.
No,
And
I
somebody
didn't
said,
say
"Don't worry,
that.
it's been taken
These are
care of."
Mr. Polinsky is an attorney. He's been an attorney for decades.
Wow.
His wife is an attorney. She's
Right.
been an attorney for decades. They
believe
run
that?
their own law firm, and they know what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
Is she now the non-evil Harriet, or is he?
No, they know what they were doing was wrong. And when I talked to another tenant in the building, they're like, the landlords, the Polinskys, know that we have roommates.
Right.
But those people have to put that in writings at some point. If
They
they're gonna
did.
go
It's
after
been on
them.
the lease for years. So in September of 2012,
Right.
when Ms. Povinetti was presented with this renewal lease,
Yes.
and there was the illegal lease clause.
It was.
Her landlord knew that was deceptive, knew that it was not true.
Okay.
And I can show criminal intent even though I don't have to.
Right.
So he knew that was wrong. So
That
when
was
I
not
called,
in the previous lease, that clause.
they don't want to give me the previous leases, but I got my hands on them.
Ah,
So-
see?
So that's something new that was added, because it looked like it was.
Well, if it's been there forever, then Mr. Polinsky, what are you doing? You're like trying to deceive some tenants, but not other tenants.
sure.
And that makes it even worse.
That's right.
But I want to get to fraud at Rikers Island because I'm going to be in federal court
Friday.
next week, and a federal judge has this evidence to show that Rikers Island is engaged in Medicaid fraud.
Well, it's paperwork, Ben.
So we don't have to. What's upsetting the city attorney involved is that the weight of evidence. There's so much evidence, but
That's
actually
right.
I can make my case in as little as 5 documents.
right.
So they drop kick me into Rikers, and the point of Rikers is to discredit me as a criminal, and then they're so desperate to have me labeled as mentally ill, they drop kick me into the mental observation ward.
Okay.
Is this part of the yeshiva thing, or is this?
Yeah,
part of
this is
your
part of
Rikers
being
Island?
stalked through life by the crooked doctors at Yeshiva University,
Yeah.
who, by the way, have been Yeshiva University was found to discriminate on the basis of religion.
Really?
Yeah, no
I didn't
kidding.
know about that.
And the 1999 Diane Persky case.
What a shock.
Diane Persky is a conservative Jew. They claimed that she wasn't Orthodox enough,
Right.
and they ruined her career.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And Mr. Mikey Weinstein of Military Religious Freedom Foundation went to Yeshiva University. He was told he wasn't Jewish enough,
Well-
and his wife wasn't Jewish enough. So there is a discriminatory motive here, Carolyn Crook. And the bottom line is I went to federal court because I'm being denied equal protection of the law.
Absolutely.
So let's look at this. And and then we'll listen to Carolyn Crook making a complete ass of herself.
Oh.
And you really think you're going to fool a federal judge
I don't think
with,
so.
with the kind of stupid arguments that I've been getting. So here's they drop me into the mental observation ward,
Yep.
and here's the consent for mental health treatment.
It is.
And in the doctor's own handwriting,
Yep.
I just want to get through this quickly. refused to sign. That's right. I am not your patient. That's why I refused to sign.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so Dr. Gormis, who I had conversations with, I'm like, Dr. Gormis, what part of no didn't you understand? And notice that she's an expert in psychosomatic medicine.
Okay.
And the reason for that is they were going to create this big argument that my spinal injuries were all in my head.
Fiction. Yeah, they're going to create this fiction.
Right.
Yes.
No, they weren't. They're all in my back.
That's right.
And if I have to, I will publish my MRIs.
For
so
real.
Dr. Gormis is saying this in May of 2010. I can't tell you how much fun this was.
Oh.
This is May of 2010, refused to sign. Yeah. That's right, because I am not your patient.
Right.
And then we've got, this is really great.
Oh, is this something?
This is...
but it says you have the right to stop the treatment at any time.
Okay, I was never their patient.
I understand, but it says there, right? So
I was never their patient.
And say, look, I want to.
I was never their patient. All they did was force contact with a mental health professional, and then behind your back, they falsify a bunch of medical records to defame you, to discredit you as you're mentally ill when you're not.
And then,
pardon me?
Were you there for a few days?
No, I had to fight my way out. Let me just get through this,
right.
Okay. All right, so this is Marianne Capone, refused to sign. You'll watch their stories change after I report them to their licensing board. Okay, so patient refused to sign.
Yep.
This is a form for consent for mental health treatment.
Spelled your name wrong.
They did a lot of stuff wrong, too. They get the book and case number wrong. All they care about is falsifying medical records.
That's right.
What they do is they make up stories to force contact with a so-called mental health professional. They're not mental health professionals. They're just a bunch of crooks.
Okay.
So this is May of 2010. Refused to sign. Wait till you see this.
Page 18 of 26.
That went to a judge.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Okay, so this is now... So in May of 2010, it's refused to sign. And then their supervisors get a hold of this, and their supervisors are like, you don't have any consent for treatment here. So their story changes to patient unable to sign. Now we start making up stories, okay? So now you got all these supervisors involved.
Yeah.
And look, here's the patient statement of involvement. By the way, just so you know what this is a comprehensive treatment plan. Okay. Oh, look at that.
What happened?
That's time, date stamped.
Okay.
And I had the U.S. Marshals look at this, and one of the U.S. Marshals, Shane Doyle, read this on the video. If you go to YouTube, my Crooked Doctors channel, she actually reads this out loud, and she says, because I asked her, I said, could you read this for me? Because I'm having a little trouble seeing that. And she reads it, and she says, this was printed on May 27th, 2010, at about 6 p.m., 6:08 p.m. and 29 seconds. So I'm like, this is the comprehensive treatment plan that's time, date stamped. Look at that. Okay. Let's read my statement of involvement. This is where I'm supposed to review this. And look what it says. I have participated in the review of my treatment plan.
That's right.
I have discussed it with my clinician/psychiatrist and agreed to participate in the plan.
Right.
And look, it's not signed.
No.
That's because I said, no, leave me alone.
Right.
So their story went from patient refused to sign to patient unable to sign.
And that would be patient mentally unable to sign,
no,
right?
Unable to sign. Why are you unable to sign?
Well, it's not because your arm was broken. It's
because, and here's the stupid story they came up with, well, why am I unable to sign?
Right.
Well, because there's no computers available on the MO, or the mental observation ward.
Right. There's
what a bunch of bozos. But wait. Well, let's watch their story change. Just 1 second. Here it is. Yep. So look, I have, here's where they claim to be giving me, this is all fraud.
Well,
and you don't see my signature here. How come?
Oh, yep.
Well, because they made up a story and they said there's no computer available on the mental observation ward.
Okay.
That's crap. Okay? If they wanted me to sign something, I'm in Rikers Island, they would walk me down to the mental observation ward anytime in 24 hours, and have me sign this thing because let's face it, there's not a whole lot I'm doing at Rikers Island, and they got guards.
That's for sure.
They got guards there 24/7.
Oh,
the
yeah,
mental observation ward is about half a block, roughly speaking. All you got to do is walk down the hall to the mental observation ward, and they'll have you sign. Because after all, I've discussed it, and no, I'm not. I'm not your patient. It's fraud. So this is happening in September. Guess what?
What?
Here's where I report them to their licensing boards. I'm on the phone, and I call up their licensing boards, and I start to report them for fraud. See this? This is November of 2010. And then let's watch their story change.
Change it again.
Okay, so after I report them to their licensing boards, right? All of a sudden, their story changes to guess what? Let's watch how their story changes. To, oh, look at this. All of a sudden, their story changes to, and let's read this. Here we go. Patient statement of involvement. Look at that. Okay, now their story changes to patient statement. I've participated in the review of my treatment. Plan. I have discussed it with my clinician /
Even spelled participated wrong.
No, well, just 1 second. Patient statement of involvement. It's right here. This is where their story changes. Patient statement. I have participated in review of my treatment plan and have discussed it with my clinician psychiatrist and agreed to participate in the plan. And look, it says no. So it went from yes to no after I reported them to their licensing board. And look, if I'm really getting treatment, where's the signature? Oh, and look, suddenly they get religion and start telling the truth or parts of the truth. Patient refuses mental health services at this time. Refusing to sign TPR. TPR is therapy. They never provided therapy to me. It's fraud. It's fraud, fraud, and more fraud.
On the face of it, sure.
So all they do, this is the dirty trick, and they did the same thing they did the same thing in Jersey City, is they force contact with a so-called mental health professional. Then behind your back, the mental health professional starts falsifying records, making up stories. You have no idea this is going on, and it would be all a whole lot of fun, except they're also sticking it to the taxpayer.
Oh, well.
You're paying for this, ladies and gentlemen. This is your hard-earned tax dollars are going to pay to do Yeshiva University's dirty work.
Your hard-earned tax dollars at work. Okay,
or
go ahead.
Pardon me?
Are you looking for justice or
both? Now we're going to have Carolyn Crook, the city attorney. Now this is not some private attorney.
That's right.
This is your tax dollars pay, Carolyn Crook.
Tax dollars at work. Go ahead.
Your tax dollars pay for the city attorney, and now she should be saying, "Oh my goodness, Lydia, this is fraud. We're going to go to these doctors. When doctors contract with a prison system to provide services." Then they fall under the purview of 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. This is denial of equal protection of the law. So she tried all kinds of stupid stories claiming they had absolute immunity. I'm like, no, they don't. You only get immunity when you're obeying the law. When you deliberately, maliciously, intentionally refuse to obey the law, then you don't get immunity. And I'm going to show you the law right here. Carolyn Crook made up every stupid excuse in the world.
Oh boy.
Okay, this is McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530. These are the definitions of professional misconduct that apply to doctors and their assistants. So this is, and let's go back up to the top where it says, these are the definitions of professional misconduct applicable to physicians, physicians' assistants, and specialist assistants. Now you're telling me that the city attorney who works for the state of New York doesn't know, and she's going, oh, you're quoting education law. No, Miss Crook.
That's right.
These are the definitions of professional misconduct by doctors. You're not stupid.
That's right.
Okay? So here's what they're supposed to do. I'm not their patient. they can't treat me as a patient unless they have authorization from me.
All right.
Here we go. Now, do I really have to quote the law here, or is this like basic common sense?
It would be, yeah.
Because if you're going to, right here, this is McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530. Let me make this really big so everybody can see it. And this is line item 26, performing professional services which have not been duly authorized by the patient.
That's right.
Okay? I said no, leave me alone.
Right.
Okay? Now, if you don't want to respect my wishes, then not only are you breaking the law, but you're setting a very dangerous precedent.
Oh, sure.
One that psychiatrists would like to get away with, because
Yeah.
what they like to do
Yeah.
in order to discredit people,
Yeah.
and I can pick examples from newspapers, for example. Hillary Clinton complained that there were Freudian psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, that were criticizing her when she was
I remember that story. Yeah.
This was in the
That's
paper,
right,
so I'm
that's
going
right.
to use it.
That's right.
She was making a speech. She was the U.S. Senator from New York.
Sure.
And she was making a speech.
Yeah.
And she was wearing a blue blouse.
That's right.
And they started psychoanalyzing her, treating her as a patient,
Yep.
and claiming that this blue blouse had this deep psychological significance.
It doesn't?
No, it doesn't. They asked her about it. She's like, there are these psychiatrists in New York that are psychoanalyzing you because what these.
I was wondering about the blue curtain behind you. What
The deep set. No, it doesn't.
it's-
The only reason I chose the blue curtain was because the character generator needs to be fixed, and our technicians are busy working on the upgrade.
Sure.
So the best I could do, unfortunately, all we can do for a couple of weeks until we can get the character
Very
generator.
practical reason.
It's a software program.
Nothing subjective there.
We're going to have to live with this black lettering. So I wanted it to be seen, so this is the best we can do. We make it work. So the issue, getting back to Hillary Clinton, doctors, psychiatrists have to have your explicit consent to treat you as a patient. Okay? And what they try to do is they try to claim with semi-public people like you and me.
Yeah.
Even Ben, they could treat you as a semi-public person at this point. Or public people like Hillary Clinton, they claim they can psychoanalyze you based on your public statements.
Right. By watching them on the tube, they can figure it out.
No, you can't. Now, Hillary Clinton probably has some, security clearance for information that she doesn't share. So just because she gets up there and there's a little frown on her face may have absolutely nothing to do with what some idiot doctor in New York is.
Right.
Didn't she just have a facelift? So how can you tell about the frown on her face?
It don't matter. The point is, you don't know this woman. You don't know what's going on in her life.
That's right.
She's not discussing with you her attitudes, her thoughts, her feelings.
Classified stuff, incidentally.
She has security clearance, so she's not sharing everything.
I'm saying classified. She can't be sharing it with the public, everything she knows.
Obviously, if she's the U.S. Senator from New York, she's getting classified information that she's not sharing with people. So you don't know what's going on in her life.
Sure.
She is
She
not.
didn't even know what her husband was up to when it was going on.
But that's not the point. The point is dishonest, crooked doctors, psychiatrists claim that they have no authorized consent to treat, for example, Hillary Clinton as a patient.
Right.
So they say, okay, well, we can psychoanalyze her and diagnose her and give our opinions about her based on her public statements because she's a public person.
Oh, wow.
No, you can't.
How's that for a twisting?
Okay, no, you can't. She does not discuss her thoughts, attitudes, feelings, and beliefs with you.
And she's not allowed to by law, as a matter of fact.
Television. If they want to make comments about what they
can make comments about it. What they can't do is start offering their psychiatric opinion.
The professional.
Well, we're threading a thin
and
line
in my case, they tried to get around it by saying we can diagnose you on your public statements. No, you can't.
You can't.
Okay, so
we just made a lot of public statements.
No, it don't matter, and in fact, there is one doctor from Bellevue that sent a letter in to Judge McLaughlin and said,
doctors from Bellevue?
Yes, I do. I actually have friends who did residencies at Bellevue, and I was invited to do, by a vice president at Bellevue when I was still a medical student, I was invited to do my research project at Bellevue. Right. And this is not funny because the vice president to whom I'm referring, His wife came to Long Island Jewish Medical Center where I was doing my project. She was a patient of their emergency department. And I enrolled this vice president and his wife in my study, and he felt that I was doing such a good job that he gave me his contact information. He said, come to Bellevue. This work should be done at Bellevue. I'd like to invite you to do your project at Bellevue. This is important work, and you should be doing it at Bellevue too. So I had the opportunity to take my project not only from Long Island Jewish Medical Center, but also to Bellevue. Bellevue would have gotten 3 to 5 original clinical research papers. The doctor I was working for, Dr. William Reddy, would have gotten his name on 3 to 5 more original clinical research papers. Dr. Silverman, who was research director, would have gotten his name on these papers. The chairman of the department would have gotten his name on these papers. This would have made Long Island Jewish look good. It would have been good papers for Bellevue. It would have made my school look good. After my legal expulsion, I demonstrated increased functioning by getting a federal grant, so I could have gotten grants to fund my work. I demonstrated that I could do that. My project could have been done by nursing students, medical residents, and in fact, it was very important for medical students to do my project because it was demonstrating that you could communicate effectively with patients about very difficult issues like death, because we were talking about death. I did my work on sexual assault, on rape, and on death. These are the 2 hardest subjects that you could choose. And I did them very successfully with rape and sexual assault. I did my work with Women Organized Against Rape in Philadelphia. We changed federal law, and this project was showing that I could talk to patients about death. So there were lots of opportunity. A whole lot of people lost really good work just because Martin Bachstein and a few crooked doctors at my medical school, the Albert Einstein Freak Show of Medicine, was more important to persecute me as an individual than to have this good work done.
That's right.
And Jimmy David, too, right?
Jimmy David is a psychopath, and now this is in the hands of a federal judge.
Right.
So, and when I argue this in front of a federal judge in about a week,
Friday.
There's going to be spectators in the courtroom. The only thing I have to say to a federal judge is, and I provided the federal judge with a letter from Bellevue, from a psychiatrist who wrote Judge McLaughlin and said, I cannot offer an opinion about Miss Radin because she has not given me consent.
That's right. Are you going to be facing somebody?
Yes. Opposing counsel is Carolyn Crook from the New York City Law Department, and she's making a complete fool of herself.
And her argument is what?
She has no defense. In fact,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, her argument would be
she has none.
I can't see why they're even showing up.
She has none. In fact, if she was a normal, decent, honest person, and I discussed this with her, I'm like, at this point in time...
Did you say you were so mentally unstable at the time you couldn't sign the paper?
No! It doesn't matter.
That's right.
They cannot force a treatment on you. You could be bleeding to death, and if you said, don't touch me, and the Jehovah's Witnesses say this, you could be bleeding to death, and if you tell a doctor, you do not touch me, they cannot touch you.
They can't.
It is your body.
Yep.
As long as you are not harming yourself or others, they have to leave you alone.
That's right.
No place along the way am I suicidal or homicidal.
That's right.
Okay. Stacy Dix-Kubiaski at Jersey City Medical Center, Judge Rodriguez forced contact with Stacy Dix-Kubiaski from Jersey City Medical Center to cover her butt because she refused to enforce no contact orders.
Right.
Okay.
I remember that.
And there's $15,000 worth of Medicaid fraud at Jersey City Medical Center. I'm already talking to the state attorney general about this, and I know that Governor Christie will support prosecution for Medicaid fraud because he's done that before. So this is garbage. You're being milked. And the taxpayers are being milked, not only for my malicious prosecution, not only for keeping me in Rikers Island that costs $50,000 to $7,000 a year, and the only thing the people at Rikers Island cared about was how much can we steal from the taxpayer. Right. The only thing they care about is how much they can steal. This is a way to bring in money to the city. You're getting ripped off big time. In fact, when I was talking to one of my attorneys, and the New York Times and the New York Post, I forget which newspaper, they quote the Board of Corrections as an authority. And the Board of Corrections is saying that everybody, almost everybody at Rikers Island, particularly the women, are all mentally ill. They're not mentally ill. All they're doing is falsifying medical records and then milking the Medicaid system because this is a source of revenue for the city, and it's fraud.
They shouldn't be making a blanket statement. All women are mentally ill.
Well,
How do you get away with something like that at the island?
What they were trying to say was at Rikers Island,
I understand
almost everybody is mentally ill.
But how can you get away with that?
Because they're milking the system for money. It's just a big money grab.
How soon
on
do
his
you
face,
get a
that won't
judgment from
stand.
this guy after you present your case?
Oh, I already asked for summary judgment because Carolyn Crook, the city attorney,
So in other words, that day he could actually say
he could do it beforehand, but he could do it now.
well, that's never going to happen.
No, it could actually.
She's going to get money out of this, Ben. Believe it.
Let's say he doesn't judge that rule that day. How long do you think it would take before he gets
Who cares? I am not your patient. So Miss Crook, you have no defense.
But then is there a second phase where he judges?
Irrelevant. It's summer. I asked for summary judgment, and here's why.
Let's say you get that though, but I'm saying, is there a second phase where he judges what the penalty will be?
Yeah, we'll get to the
yeah.
And what Carolyn Crook, what the city should be demanding with me is from these crooked doctors is restitution. The city wants its money back.
Right.
They want sanctions. They want penalties. They want fines. They want interest on the money.
Absolutely.
In addition to clearing my name.
Right.
You know, from the malicious prosecution and the fraud at Rikers Island, we're talking about over $250,000 of hard-earned taxpayer dollars to do Yeshiva University's dirty work. And at this point in time, the mayor, and by the way, I can put this in the hands of the mayor should be screaming his head off. And Mr. Christie will back me up here, I'm sure.
Oh, he will.
You know, there's no money to pay for the victims of Superstorm Sandy,
That's right.
but we got plenty of money to waste in doing Yeshiva University's dirty work. Come on.
Yeah.
We have no money to employ good teachers, but we got plenty of money. U.S. Senator Tom Colberg will back me up here too, because he says this repeatedly. So it's ridiculous the amount of fraud that's going on in Jersey. Mr. Christie prosecuted a medical school in Jersey for not thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars, not hundreds of millions of dollars of Medicaid fraud. That was a fraud so massive that they literally had to have rooms full of people falsifying records. This is what your money goes for, milking you for hospitals and doctors who are so grossly incompetent they can't earn a living.
That's right.
In Jersey City, President Joseph Scott, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
This happened in like the last year or two.
Yes.
President Joseph Scott went to a city council meeting, and he got up in front of a Jersey City Council meeting, and he told them that the Jersey City Medical Center was so far in the red.
That's right.
Establishing their motive, which is greed. They were so far in the red that they couldn't get a private for-profit company to buy them.
That's right. I remember that, yeah.
So the only way Jersey City Medical Center can get money is by executing this kind of Medicaid fraud and defame me in the process? I don't think so.
No, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, but if he rules in your favor, let's say, and then he gives you some money, where does that money come from? Comes from the city? Does it come from...
Oh, it'll come from the crooked doctor. We'll worry about that later. But right now, this is Carolyn Crook.
Carolyn Crook
has no plausible deniability.
Nope.
This is Carolyn Crook, and she's twisting in the wind to make up all kinds of reasons why. And I want to play this because...
Let's say she doesn't show up that day, then what?
I win by default? I mean, come on. No. I already asked for summary judgment.
Sure.
Chances are that's not going to happen.
The bottom line...
You're going to have to give her a chance. The judge's going to have to give her a chance.
And she's already stated in her papers... refusal of treatment.
That's
So I'm like, Carolyn Crook, what's your defense? You're already agreeing with me.
That's right.
She's like, oh, I don't understand. What don't you understand? They defamed me. I'm not their patient.
That's right.
No. What part of no don't you understand? The judge already has an example, and there's another example. He already has an example from Bellevue of a psychiatrist who says, I can't treat this woman as her, in effect, he says, she has not given me consent. I cannot do any evaluation of her. And Joe Bruno is a clinician at Rikers Island who I'm not suing. He was not named in the complaint because he brings me down to the mental health department. He says, Ms. Radin, would you like me to treat you? No. Okay, fine. And it stops there.
There you
okay.
go.
So if Rikers Island and Carolyn Crook and the city of New York want to set a very dangerous precedent that they can diagnose anybody without a consent, just willy-nilly make up false medical records and stick it to the taxpayer. Good luck with that. Let's see you get it past a federal judge.
Ain't
They
gonna
gave
work.
you a piece of paper with your diagnosis on it?
There is no diagnosis. What's
You
my?
had to make something
They
up. After you
changed
left,
their
on
story.
your way out, did they give you a
They
release
changed.
paper?
Oh, they changed their story.
Yeah.
No, on the way out, they tried to force contact. They changed their story so many times. They told lie after lie. Dr. Calignan told lie after lie after lie. Every time I caught them, their story changed. So on the way out, they're like, "Oh, she needs discharge planning." No, I don't. Here's example after example after example where I say no to discharge planning. The purpose of discharge planning is to get you Social Security insurance, SSI. I don't need SSI.
That's right.
I have SSD, Social Security Disability, which is not a handout. This was an insurance program that I paid into when I was working.
Absolutely.
And the reason I got one of the highest payouts was because I was earning a high salary before Yeshiva University inflicted a serious bodily injury on me. And Dr. Jelnov in Jersey lied to the Social Security Administration. So here's where this is going for Dr. Jelnov, because I already talked to the State Attorney General about this. Dr. Jelnov and Jersey City Medical Center, if they cannot produce a signed court order to hold me for 4 days in their hospital, they are guilty of the crime of false imprisonment.
You got him.
Okay, so Dr. Jelnov now, he's being laughed at by Judge Falcone because Judge Falcone signed that court order. And when I went down and asked for my records, they deliberately omitted that court order because they didn't want the connection to Falcone. So Dr. Jelnov, you're going to pay the price for you and Jersey City Medical Center are going to pay the price for Nino Falcone's crimes.
That's right.
And Nino Falcone and my landlords are laughing at you.
That's
and not only would... Wait, because I reported this to Debbie Simon at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. I reported this to Ed DeFazio, to Tracy McQuaid. So Dr. Jelnov thinks that he can get away with this.
No, he can't.
Because there's a 2-year statute of limitations for the crime of false imprisonment. But he can't get away with it because Debbie Simon participated in covering this up. And then I went to the State Attorney General's office, and Assistant Attorney General Tracy Thompson participated in this crime, and so did her boss, Hester Aganosi. So this is where Dr. Jelnov stands. You can't produce that signed court order, then you, the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, and some individuals in the State Attorney General's office will pay for Judge Nino Falcone's crime.
That's right.
Or you can hand over that signed court order and let Judge Falcone pay for his own crime. Either way, I don't care which group of criminals we get. I either prosecute one group of criminals or another group of criminals. It don't matter to me. But right now, Dr. Jelnov, they're laughing at you.
That's right.
So let's all listen to, as we go out, this is my Crooked Doctors channel. Carolyn Crook has no plausible deniability, and I'm going to talk you through this a little bit. And the bottom line is, well, as we talk through this, by the way, the music is the Battle Cry of Freedom, and I'll get to the reason why. No. There's a reason for that.
There's a reason.
I understand that, but it's really, try to read this type while that music is going on. It's very hard.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to increase the magnification. And here we go. This is a conversation that I had with opposing counsel December 19th. This is Carolyn Crook. This is her phone number. If you don't want to get ripped off, you call Carolyn Crook and you say, why are you participating in fraud? Why am I paying for fraud? How come the 911 first responders are being told there's no money for you?
They're shortchanged.
Yeah, there's plenty of money here. Why don't you go get restitution for this and give it to the 911 first responders who really are dying of cancer?
Are you bringing this in as evidence, this tape here?
No, this is for the general public. I already submitted my evidence.
Yes.
Okay, so
all right.
This is a conversation. How come? Wait, what happened to my
music?
Wait a minute. There's something wrong here. Hold it. Just 1 second. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Sorry. Let's go back. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Okay, let me go back because I had to turn up the volume on the computer. So here we go. Let me just bring this back a little bit. And by the way, this is 18 minutes, so we have about 15 minutes left.
All right,
so
let's go.
We're going to play this next week in its entirety, but you can also go to YouTube, and you can go to my Crooked Doctors channel, and you'll find this under Carolyn Crook.
On the grid, right?
And you can find it on the grid too, but this is on YouTube on my Crooked Doctors
Okay.
channel. So let me just make sure that the music is
Soundtrack.
sound is coming up. Yeah,
Go.
Okay, so here we go. Let's enlarge this.
All right, I made a good faith effort. Thank you.
Wait, let's go back. See the beginning. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Okay, so this is an audio tape from opposing counsel, New York City Attorney Carolyn Crook, and I'd like everybody to take this phone number. If you're sick and tired of fraud, and more fraud, then call Carolyn Crook at 212-788-1165 and say, I'm a taxpayer and I've had it.
Yep.
Okay, I want all the money repaid. I want sanctions against these crooked doctors.
Restitution.
I want restitution. I want penalties, fees, interest on the money. I've pretty much had it.
Yep.
And while the 911 first responders, while the 911 World Trade Center first responders beg literally for money
Sure.
to help pay for health care for men and women who are dying of cancer.
That's right.
Carolyn Crook is helping dishonest, crooked doctors commit Medicaid fraud.
There she is.
Oh, and if you really want to make another phone call, call our senator. Call U.S. Senator Charles Schumer. Here's his cell phone number.
Where is it?
917-848-9624. This is the cell phone number that he gave me when I went to see him during the Sonia Sotomayor hearings. This is the cell phone number that he gave me. He said, call this cell phone number, Lydia, and I'll help you. That was years ago. He never lifted a finger.
Still waiting.
Talk to his aide, Lane Bodian, and yes, I have audio tapes between me and Lane Bodian. I can't wait to put up there.
What happened, Senator? We're still waiting.
Yeah. So let's see Senator Schumer do something for the 911 first responders.
Yeah.
Prosecute for Medicaid fraud at Rikers Island.
That's right.
So we're going to listen to the audio tape now.
Okay.
Now we're going to listen.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Is this Carolyn Crook?
Yes, it is.
Hi, it's Lydia Radin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Listen, before I submit my motion, I got a little advice that I should talk a couple things over with you. It seems like we're in agreement that I refuse treatment. So if I refuse to be a patient, how do these people have any right to make a medical record at all? So the question that was asked to me was, because you're a city attorney, why are we wasting your time and the city's money litigating this thing when we appear to be in agreement? I refuse treatment. I'm not the patient of Elmhurst Hospital or any doctor at Rikers Island. And in fact, there's one guy, what was his name? First name was Joe Bruno. Joe Bruno called me down to the mental health department. I said no, and he dropped it right there. He's like, well, she said no, I'm not treating her. He didn't make up any medical records. He didn't bill Medicaid for it. So, he's an example of someone who's like, look, she refused treatment. I'm not creating medical records for her, and I'm not billing Medicaid. The other doctors created false medical records, and then they committed the crime of billing Medicaid for it. So since we appear to be in agreement, why are we litigating this thing at all? And why aren't you...
I don't agree with the allegations that the purpose of this motion is to address the nature of your complaints as they're set out in the papers, in your actual amended complaint.
Well, I'm not their patient. So for them to run around, for Dr. Calignan and Dr. Canali to offer her opinions about me, I'm not your patient. I don't need discharge planning. I declined discharge planning. I have Social Security disability. The purpose of discharge planning is to get me Social Security insurance. I don't need Social Security insurance. I have Social Security disability. So, there are these tortured reasons. They claim that, the treatment, the comprehensive treatment plan is time date stamped. I never signed it. Patient refused to sign. Then they changed their story to patient unable to sign. Why am I unable to sign? Well, there are no computers on the mental observation ward. Well, of course not. I mean, these doctors have their own offices. Have you ever been to Rikers?
No.
Okay, these doctors have their own offices in the mental observation ward. They go and they print out whatever paperwork they want, and then they walk down to where the inmates are housed. Of course, there are no computer printers where the inmates are housed. So the bottom line is the comprehensive treatment plan was never signed by me. There's no group. I never participated in group therapy at Rikers Island. Who's in my group? That's ridiculous. So, I'm saying I didn't need discharge planning. I refuse treatment from you people. I don't need treatment. And I'm not your patient. So, step one, where are you creating these medical records? And step two, how dare you charge Medicaid for this? This is Medicaid fraud. So they're
well, just remember, though, the nature of my motion is on the basis of the contents of basically how you've written your complaint. It's not clear what you're alleging from those documents.
But it is in the papers that I filed to ask for an extension, where I said, look, it's very simple. These people are defaming me as their patient. I'm not their patient. And here's the stack of false medical records that they made to bill Medicaid for. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll find out soon enough. I mean, we have the oral argument scheduled for January, so if the court disagrees with me, we'll take it from there.
Well, the purpose of my asking you is, how do you think I'm these people's patient? I mean,
that's not the basis of this motion. I think you need to go back to what I've initially.
Right. Your first argument against me was, the judge sent me an order which I never got. You omitted that part. They sent it to a post box, which I never got. It was returned to the court. And then, you claim, I think it's page 6, there was a refusal of treatment. So if there's a refusal of treatment, I'm not your patient. Where did you get the idea I was your patient? You don't have immunity if you're violating state law. State law says that in order that these doctors are operating beyond their authorized scope. They don't have authorization from the patient to perform professional services, and they're supposed to comply with all the codes, rules, and regulations governing the practice of medicine. I mean, if these people just decide willy-nilly to pick on anybody as their patient, let's diagnose you, Miss Crook. Well, I mean, why doesn't a doctor just come along and say, I think I'll do a big psychoanalysis of you. They don't know you. You're not their patient. You didn't authorize treatment. They have no idea what's going on in your life. I mean, who are these people? Just willy-nilly pick people to diagnose. I'm not their, and they couldn't possibly treat you anyway. So, I mean, my question to you is, you appear to be in agreement with me because your motion says refusal of treatment. And in all the documents that I provided to you, I'm writing over and over again, I refuse treatment. I am not your patient.
Well, then what you might want to do is file an amended complaint that sets it out in a plain, clear manner, because the problem with your complaint is it's like 50 pages long with all the attachments. You can't do that. You can't file something that complex and that convoluted in court. It has to be a plain and simple statement of what each defendant has done wrong and when, and you don't do that. So that's the basis of my motion. It's not saying that what happened did not happen. It's simply on the basis of it's not clear. You can't just keep stapling a million things together and submitting it to court. It just won't hold up.
Well, I believe I said that.
It's convoluted.
Well, it's not really that convoluted because it's not about each episode of stalking and harassment. It's the fact that I'm being stalked through life by my medical school and its attorneys. So this is episode after episode after episode as they destroy my life. And in Jersey City, they almost murdered me. At Rikers Island, I was beaten and almost murdered. So these people are capable of very serious crimes, and they want to shut me up because they don't like what I have to say, not only about their school, but politically. So, you know,
I mean, let me put it this way. If I'm going to respond to your complaint, because, you know, I would have to file an answer and, you know, admit or deny, it's so complicated that it's not broken out even in paragraphs for me to respond to. It's just not clear. Maybe the court will disagree with me and we'll take it there, but at this point I'm not going to withdraw my motion.
I didn't ask you to. What I'm saying is, what are we fighting about? Because according to the judge, he's not concerned about the niceties of procedure. The core issue is this woman your patient? No, she's not. You've committed professional misconduct. And here's example after.
We're not at that debate.
Well, but I'm asking to you because you're not a private attorney, and there isn't a private client who's willing to throw away money to give me a hard time in litigation. You work for the city. These are the taxpayer dollars. So foremost in your mind should be, this is why I was asked to reach out to you, is, okay, it doesn't appear that we have any dispute because you state simply, and I think it's page 6, refusal of treatment. So you're already where I am.
I think you might be misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm not sure of the exact statement, but I might be saying it appears that you're alleging, you know, something along those lines, but I'm not agreeing that happened.
You think that I consented to treatment?
No, I'm not saying that either, but for the purposes of this motion.
So then what, once again, this is not about prolonging litigation. If you were a private attorney?
No, it's not about prolonging litigation. It's just a matter of making sure that we're complying with the federal courts.
Pardon me?
About complying with the federal court's rules.
Yeah, and once again, you know, you work for the city at a time where, you know, tax dollars are you know, there's, in case you haven't heard, I'm sure you have, there's, you know, a housing emergency and the city's strapped for money. But once again, you know, it's not the purpose of this isn't to prolong litigation, and since we're in agreement that I'm not the patient of any doctor at Rikers Island.
We're not in agreement. I'm sorry, Ms. Radin. We're not in agreement.
You think I am their patient?
No, we're not in agreement.
Well, I mean, either I am their patient or I'm not their patient. So
we're not at that stage of the litigation where we're arguing about the validity of your claims. We're not at that stage. We're at the very beginning stage of looking at the actual nature of your complaint,
the nature of my complaint.
The form and contents of your actual complaint is what I'm looking at.
Right, and what you're supposed to be doing is getting at the meat and potatoes of the issue, and the meat and potatoes of the issue.
Not at this stage, because I need you to set it out in paper. I mean, essentially, if you'd written down what you told me over the phone in a somewhat more clear manner, then we might not be having this issue, but at this point...
Well, I think I did in one of my motions where I said, you know, it's very simple. This comes down to defamation. These people are defaming me, claiming I'm their patient. I'm not.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry I can't help you at this stage, but...
it's not a matter of helping you. I was asked to make a good faith effort to reach out to you and say, why are we wasting the court's time and the taxpayer time because clearly you've got, you know, examples of I'm writing, I refuse treatment, I am not your patient, over and over again, and these doctors are disrespecting law. I even think you said in your papers these doctors don't know what they did wrong. Well, if they don't know what they did wrong, then they just admitted to violating the laws that govern professional misconduct, because they're supposed to comply with all the rules, regulations, and laws that govern the practice of medicine. And step one, if you don't have consent, you can't treat someone as a patient. And clearly they know what they're doing is wrong, because they presented me with consent forms, which I refused to sign. And then they changed the story from patient refused to sign to patient unable to sign. Why? Well, there's no computers on the mental observation ward. But, you know, the comprehensive treatment plan is time, date stamped. So you're dealing with fraud here. These are crimes that I'm bringing to your attention. It doesn't seem that we should be adversaries. It seems we should be asking, why the taxpayers are being ripped off, milking the Medicare system to commit Medicaid fraud.
Well, if the judge denies my motion, then maybe we'll have a different conversation. But at this stage, there's nothing I can do. I'm going to proceed, and we'll have our argument on the 11th of January.
Okay. And your other issue is there law enforcement involved? Yeah, there is law enforcement involved because I reported it to the Department of Corrections. And because I've reported it to the state licensing boards. And for the underlying claims that I'm being persecuted for federal student loan fraud, it went to a state agency, the Higher Education Services Corporation. There's lots of state agencies involved. I mean, there's a long history of me being persecuted by this school.
Yeah, I only represent the city.
Right.
Not
and for
state.
Judicial notice, is there a discriminatory motive for this? Yeah. Yeshiva University was found to discriminate on the basis of religion in the 1999 Diane Persky case, and I can direct judicial attention to that case. So they do have a discriminatory motive. Yeshiva University is not a medical school, is not non-denominational. It's an Orthodox Jewish school. I was referred to as not a human being at this Orthodox Jewish school. The only reason they had me there was to meet the diversity requirements so they could get the public money, and then they railroaded me out. So yeah, their crimes are motivated by hate.
I'm not sure what to tell you, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I look forward to reading your papers, and maybe
Well, it's very simple. I mean, I'm just going to say, what I really should have done was to move for summary judgment. So I'm going to, put that in. That I could give you the long-winded explanation or the short-winded explanation. I'll give them the short explanation, which is, I'm not the patient of Dr. Canale. I'm not the patient of any of these doctors, and they defamed me when they claimed that I was their patient. And the city attorney should not be fighting with me. The city attorney should be going, oh my goodness, we have Medicaid fraud, and should be asking all those dollars to be returned with fines and penalties so these doctors don't do it again. And
if the court disagrees with me, I'll follow the court's order. So we'll see what happens, right?
Okay, well, the best advice I got was ask the city attorney why she isn't going after these doctors for Medicaid fraud.
Yeah, we're not at that stage. We're not discussing the whether I'm not agreeing or disagreeing whether these acts happen to you. I'm simply looking at the contents in the form of your complaint.
And that's exactly what you should not be doing with the pro se litigant. You should be going, oh my goodness, you refuse treatment.